Don Meij, 35 years ago, you started as a driver for pizza company.
Mm-hmm.
Today I'm sitting in your office, where you're CEO of a company that has 3,421 pizza stores in 10 different markets. You're CEO of the company that has a market cap above $5.2 billion today. You're a pure example that you can start from the bottom, and with hard work, persistence, me sitting in your office today talking to CEO of Domino's, which is a big journey. So looking back now, first question that I have for you, do you ever take a moment and sit back and say to yourself, we have done well, Don, and it's been a long and hard, successful journey?
Well, there's moments when I do, but the interesting thing about A, being a public company, and B, for me, I'm one of those people that results have already happened and I'm always striving. And so I always have to remind myself to find moments to celebrate, because it's not my natural instinct. In fact, when we say we're $5.2 billion today, we were $12 billion this time last year.
Yes.
So, obviously I'm sitting here going, yes, I'm proud that we're a $5.2 billion company, but we're also, not valued where we should be and where we're going as a business. And so a bit of a hard marker, if that makes sense, that I'm always saying, yes, let's recognize great things that are going on in our business. Let's recognize really good people doing incredible things. But me personally, I'm a really tough on myself constantly.
So you constantly obviously want to keep growing yourself as an individual with the company too.
Yeah, and always having to reinvent yourself. Over 35 years, the world's changed a lot.
And it's changing more now than ever.
Constantly. And the last 3 years of the pandemic now, and crazy inflation around the world and all these sort of things, labor shortages all over the world. So looking at yourself as a leader when you're running, when I was managing one pizza shop, to then being a franchisee at one point, or operations director, to then you're a CEO of one country, then two countries, and then you're now going to the other side of the world, to Netherlands,
10
France.
different markets.
10, well, 13 in the next few weeks.
Yes.
We'll be just under 3,800 stores. So how do you change to be your best self? Because as much as I'm still a sizable shareholder in our business, actually, I'm still an employee of the company.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, as a public company, I'm not here just to warm the seat because I was one of the founders of our business and so on. People expect results.
Of course.
I always say if you don't turn up to training, you shouldn't be expected to play the game. You can't retire and stay in the seat. You've got to be a high performer, or you should step aside and let somebody else step up. So,
which is interesting. Obviously, end of the day, most capable people need to be in their own positions within their companies as well. Starting 35 years ago, sounds like a long time, but 35 years goes really fast.
It does.
I'm 43 now, and I started my life journey in workspace when I was 16, and I have a feeling that it just goes so fast because you're so focused on everything that you are doing. Starting from the bottom, really, where you started, you obviously kept growing with the business as well. In a lot of cases, in a lot of businesses, business can outgrow the person, or person can outgrow the business. But with you constantly kept growing yourself as an individual. And how important it is for all of us that we keep educating ourselves with the times.
Yeah, the minute you think that you know it all, the minute you think and maybe that's also a little bit of an answer to the last question, is that the reason you think that you've now reached your peak, you're actually now going to decline.
Correct.
Because society's changing, business is changing, the people around you, your team are changing. Your team, they go to bed tonight, they wake up tomorrow, they can sometimes come in a different way. So if you're not changing the way that you're growing and taking responsibility for the things that are happening around you, then you should leave. You're
scaling any business. It's not easy. It's not easy to get up to 1 million turnover with any kind of company, then scaling it to 10 million and more. How did you manage, or how do you manage the growth of the companies, because there's so many people that are watching this. They obviously have existing businesses and they want to scale up. And it is a lot of pressure to many individuals, because a lot of individuals want to do everything. They want to micromanage. You clearly can't micromanage, 3,421 stores physically. How do you manage that?
Yeah, look, it is all about the people. And it's one of the gifts that if you can learn that young enough, it's the goose that keeps laying the golden eggs forever. The more you invest time, training, not even yourself directly, but even getting that for your people, the more you attract the right attitude and mindset, and then you shape and develop that. It's the gift that forever gives, because if other individuals in the business that are leaders have that same hunger and that same passion, like individuals, and who are also pushing themselves as a high performance individuals, then you start spinning out and replicating what you're doing in huge scale. So the way our business runs today, so I might be the global CEO, but then I have a Europe CEO looking after 6 countries, and APAC looking after, now with the new market, 7 countries. And then underneath those, you have individual CEOs and teams. And it's the ability that these individuals have that can do extraordinary things at scale. So when I look at my business, I still think of it as quite simple.
Yes.
You try to make sure that you don't overcomplicate. One of the biggest mistakes when people start growing their business, they get in the habit of running business for the sake of business, and they forget that they're in the business of products and services and customers. The focus of a CEO, an entrepreneur, the drivers of business is to be constantly at the forefront of what they're selling.
Correct.
And as soon as you get away from that and you start just doing process, and you're running head offices, and you're wondering if there's coconut milk in the fridge, and do we have enough gym classes today for our people to be happy, and all sort of stuff. If you shift too much, you've got to have elements of good culture and great places to work. But where is your priority?
Correct.
And the more passionate, like for example, I only an hour ago was in a product development session, because that's what matters.
Yes.
The future products we sell at Domino's will define the success, our sales, our profits, and so on. And if the boss doesn't care, then does the next person have the same passion? Do they just get in the thing of ticking a box and getting that product out into the next window because we need to have something to sell? And you can see the brands, you go and buy them. You look at this brand, you go, they've lost their way. I used to love that brand.
Yes.
When I grew up, there was a fashion brand that was iconic in Australia, and I used to think it was really cool. It doesn't even barely exist today, and it's not cool.
And that's a dangerous thing of any business. If you're not moving ahead with times today, you can be really dead tomorrow. Interesting what you just said before, keeping things simple.
Really simple.
I think a lot of us are guilty of overcomplicating situations that are in front of us, specifically when you're scaling up. Quite often, I always found myself in the past like a soccer player. And when you're playing a game of soccer, when you actually play yourself, you're just running like a madman, passing the balls, trying to defend everything. And my business personally started really growing when I stepped back and started acting more like a coach or manager. And that's where I can actually see my players and I can say, okay, you're actually doing really well in this position, but I'm going to move somebody else from there or bring somebody from reserves. You see things different way. A lot of people find it more controlling and not being able to let go and get other people that are capable to do their jobs as well. And I think obviously clearly you're doing that well on international level to be able to let go. And how difficult it is to let go and get somebody who's really talented to expand.
When something's your baby particularly, it's really hard. As you get larger, you're not as, you don't physically own every little element of the business, so it probably becomes a little easier to see things for what they are. But when you're very close in the beginning, it's harder.
Yes.
The thing that one of the modern things is in management is always to say, you need to empower your people. And you're absolutely right, you need to empower your people. But you've also got to be, I use the Australian cricket team analogy, is the wolf at the front of the pack sets the pace for the rest of the pack. So if you're going to empower people, still do deep dives. Make sure that you're helping to set the pace of the product development or the service or the energy for the image of the thing you might be about to launch. show what high standards of challenging and the questions you should be asking, whatever, and then step back and watch, does the behavior continue? Because what ends up happening, a lot of managers I know, they'll hire teams, and then those teams are responsible for things, and they haven't really dived into the understanding. So if things aren't working, was it the team? Was it the right direction? Was it individuals? And they don't actually know.
And then they don't have a full understanding. And quite often, actually, I follow you for many years, you seem to have understanding of everything that's happening within your business. Doesn't mean you're finding out if there's enough milk in the fridge,
Nope.
but you do have understanding the product that you do have today. And I've watched a lot of videos with you tasting the product. You're actually eating your product.
All the time. Twice today. True story.
I'll tell you something that is true story. There are people that are filming this. In our office, our head office is in Toowong, Brisbane. We're actually having your pizza at least once a week for all of our staff. There's about 50 staff.
Thank you.
So I'm probably one of the best customers when it comes to your business.
You are. If you're buying once a week, that's a good customer.
Literally. We always buy it for all of our staff. And there's a store very close by as well. Scaling up.
Good franchisee too, Toowong. They're good operators.
Because I'm spending all the money.
Yeah.
just kidding. It's actually close to our office. And yes, the product is great. Otherwise, people like us wouldn't be going back there. And I think that's actually one of the keys to any growth of any business, to offer product good enough that people want to call you again.
Every second pizza in Australia is a Domino's pizza sold today. You can't... People aren't going to buy that. For the other half, sometimes there may be people who say, no, I like to buy a gourmet this and stuff. And there is an audience that says, no, I want lamb with tzatziki or whatever on it. But if half of all pizza sold, you must be doing that.
Something good.
Because people are buying it. But at the same time, you can't take that for granted. You've got to keep reinventing and keeping it fresh.
Well, obviously, I've been eating Domino's pizza for a very long time. And I can see that it is changing, not for worse, for better, because we keep buying it as well. Scaling up is... there's actually a good book called Scaling Up. Scaling up any business, it's not easy. What is one advice you would give to anybody that is starting today, hopefully, or has existing business, and next 20 years, they want to scale it? What is one piece of advice you can give all of us to follow your footsteps, because you clearly have experience scaling anything up?
So a couple of things about our model is, first of all, if you're doing international, the first thing we travel as is we don't travel as Australians. We travel as entrepreneurs with a business model. So that when we go into, say, Japan or France or Germany or a foreign country, you're not sitting in Germany going, in Australia, because everything outside's Germany. So why are you here? But if you talk, and therefore you're alienating, but if you talk to a business strategy, in our case, we have a whole strategy called high volume mentality, which is very, very simplistically, is if you remove all the physical and mental barriers or bottlenecks in a business, sales and profits are exponential. What holds you back is either mental or physical. And we have to diagnose, why, when we went to France, unsuccessful business, well, we don't sell alcohol. Okay, in the end, it wasn't most important, but it was a mental barrier.
Correct.
That they weren't selling alcohol, so we can't be successful. Okay, well, we're going to do, what else? 2 or 3 things, we say we're going to do those things. By the way, here's the 3 things we actually want you to do, because they'll probably make a difference, right? But so first of all, high volume mentality and a way we think, and we're not traveling as nationalists or from a culture of a certain nationality, we're traveling with business models. The second thing we do is we send missionaries. So originally, people who are indoctrinated in your philosophy of business, the way that we think, because if you're going to a new market, let's say you're a Brisbane operation going to Sydney, which is close compared to the distances we're traveling to do business. But if you're so far away, how do you know that person? What are they telling you back? Because often when you have somebody external, so you go to a new market or a new country, you hire external people. They're not indoctrinated in your culture. And immediately they start telling you things about why the way you do in Brisbane or in Australia is different, right? And maybe they're right, but if you don't have a basis that they're indoctrinated in the first place in what you do know, then what happens if they're wrong? And so we always say that no one deserves to change the future until they can articulate why we do what we do in the past. As soon as you can articulate what you're going to change, and then, because you know why it exists, and now you're going to change it, you have of course we've got to innovate. We've got to innovate all the time. But innovation for the sake of innovation, and when you is actually can destroy a business, you're breaking the really good fundamentals of the business. So having a business model, we've been using it now for decades, called high volume mentality. It's a way to think. We do training classes. People who've already proven success with that model travel with that. And that's not just Australians today. We've got Dutch people. So we've got the CEO of Japan is Dutch, the CEO of Taiwan is Dutch, the CEO of the new Malaysia, they're Dutch. Our first successful market were Dutch. So we were Australians traveling, we taught a team, and now that team's expanding, and soon there'll be other cultures moving around. Missionaries have a business model, and then some interesting philosophies about your values and purpose. And none of them say in Australia.
Correct.
Japan. None of them say...
So you've got to think of the global level as well, if you're going to be attacking really other markets in any possible way.
And even Sydney and Brisbane. Like when we first went to Melbourne, I was sitting in a coffee shop and they said, why is Domino's coming to Melbourne? We already have, there's 800 pizza shops here, they're great.
And all individually probably on too.
Yeah. And I said to him, look, there is 800 individual pizza shops here. Melbourne is an independent pizza market, but I just want 80.
Yes.
I believe there's a place to have a consistent, high value innovation. Because if you go to Gino's always does it that way, and maybe you like that. But I reckon we can challenge you with a better service, a better product, a better...
And faster service.
Much faster service, things like that. And then we'll only get those customers if we earn them. But it is the natural instinct. Like no matter where you travel, if you're from a place, you're disarming that. You're saying, but you're from Brisbane. They're different in Brisbane. I go, yeah, you're right. They are different. But let's talk about the business that we're going to create.
In your town.
In your town.
Correct. Looking back now, advice you would have for anybody that wants to start their own business, any young individual, because end of the day, I'm a little bit younger than you, not too much. I started from somewhere and you started from somewhere. And unfortunately, when I was starting, I didn't have another me that can give me advice that can potentially help me specifically on start. What advice can you have somebody who is on that verge of starting, but I shouldn't? I got a safety net.
Yeah, look, there always has to be that day when you're going to step over the line and take a risk. You can always, everybody around you can tell you why not to do something as well, right? Like in life, the reason entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs are rare compared to the general population is that from children we're taught better to be safe than sorry.
Correct.
You have a good job, you're at university, you're doing this, that's reassured of a reasonable life. The life you're trying to choose comes with a lot of pain, and even a parent sometimes, like I was lucky, I had a very supportive mum.
Yes.
She encouraged me to follow my dreams and so on. I wonder if I didn't have that mum. My dad was a businessman, but he was much more conservative.
Yes.
Why would you leave your university degree to work in pizza? Like, that's pizza. Like you're going to be a teacher, and that's a much more secure degree, and so on. So
I do think you'll be a good teacher.
Yeah. and
as well.
Yeah, well, to be a good leader, you've got to be a good teacher.
Correct.
Right? That's what you're doing today. That's part of what your motivation is as well. And so my first thing is that you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to find. And so as you're on your journey, look for successful people. And it's the people around you. Look, I'm an existentialist. That means I believe I'm the product of my exposure, the people I surround myself, the events I experience in my life, the things I push myself to be, and my effect of what comes from that. That's what I believe. That's my own personal philosophy. So in that, I think entrepreneurs are more likely to be able to have that ability to take risk. And when you're young, you've got far, as long as it's not unsafe,
yes,
you're not going into something that's unsafe, or that you and personally are going to hurt somebody mentally or financially to a bad, if you're taking the risk, that's okay, because while you're young, you're going to learn.
And there's no such a thing as a failing if you learn.
Correct.
Keep moving.
Yeah, correct.
Forward.
Because as you get older and you get more responsibilities and you have more team members that are in your company and more investors, you have more people to carry to your risk, right? It gets harder to take those big risks. But when you're young, just keep stepping out there. Leaving a job, guess what? You can come back.
Correct.
You know what? Good people, the world's always looking for them. Whether there's 10% unemployment or 2% unemployment, the world is in search of talent.
In every business.
In every business. So if your worst case scenario is after trying to be an entrepreneur for 5 to 10 years, because I say don't give up after 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. If you're pushing and pushing and it doesn't work out and you're now in your late 20s, you can always go back to that more secure world of consistency. If that's the worst, hopefully that doesn't happen. And 8 years of learning, you're going to be amazing if it takes that long, right? Like I have, my son's an entrepreneur, he's only 20 and he's starting little businesses and stuff. And I just keep saying to him, the best thing here right now, because he always asks me, what do you think? And I said, well, I don't want to give you an opinion that could be wrong. Instead, I want to ask you the questions that you should be asking yourself, because you're going to decide. You're in businesses that I haven't been involved in, with Web3 and all this sort of stuff. But the best thing here is that the dedication you're giving to this, the amount of effort, you're working 6 days, 7 days a week at the moment, you're really passionate about it, you're going to learn so much. And none of it's a waste.
And nobody can ever take the knowledge away from you.
And you've got it uniquely because you were the one at the coalface. You were the one, he launched a new website the other day, launched it. And on the day of the launch, they were too busy doing a webinar, and the website broke. And so all these people going to the website didn't get to use it. But he said, oh, what a learning. I said, what a learning.
What a learning, exactly.
Now, you can tell it to somebody else.
Be more careful probably the next time when he's doing it.
And he really understands because he felt the pain. I can tell you something and you may not hear it if you haven't felt the pain of the learning, all right, or the delight. The things that we really wire ourselves is to the most painful moments and the most exciting moments, because we want to get the excitement back and we don't want to get the pain in our life. So that's so embedded in us, it's innate. But I can tell you about it, but if you haven't felt either of those emotions...
I always say, I can talk about a glass of water and I can tell you everything about it, but unless you try it yourself, you're never really going to feel the taste of what I'm talking about, full stop. Interesting thing that you said about parents. I always say a lot of parents, only advice that they give their children is what they know, because they don't know much better. Like my mom was housewife all her life, and dad was working for somebody all his life, and it's hard for them to say, hey son, go and be an entrepreneur, do whatever you love, because they were used to that safety net. So I think for children that don't have mom, for example, like yours, that said, son, go for it, they actually have to have that mental strength themselves to really listen to their own inner voice and go and do it. And it's not easy, but one thing for sure, life is too short. We only have one life. We're not gonna die, or we're not gonna live like dinosaurs. Even if you live like dinosaurs, we'll still be dead one day, and we don't really want to waste our time on this planet. What does never give up mean to Don?
Yeah, so all the big decisions I've made or taken the business on a journey, big risks, really batting out there. I've never been in that first moment where I didn't think, oh my gosh, what have I done? I've always lived through, in every big risk, there's been a moment either the night before or the first month or 2 months of living something where you went, did I make a big mistake? But in that, the best self comes out. Yes. The hungry self comes out, because regardless of all your success, this one big risk now could take it all away in potential, right? Now, maybe you've still got some other stuff your reputation's still where it is, but right now, maybe it's coming to an end. And in that moment, the way you listen more than you've been listening recently, the way your brain innovates, the way you're with your teams and challenging things, because now you're here. You can't step back in time. You've taken this giant step. Going to Europe the first time, we're a little Australian company, and we're buying a business that was losing money in France, the Netherlands, and Belgium. And we arrive, and the first month is July, and it's a heat wave, and people don't buy pizza in Europe when it's hot. So I just bought a business losing money, and now it loses more in the first 6 weeks.
And people eat pizza 11 p.m. at night time over there.
Exactly. And so here I am thinking, oh my gosh, because everyone said, you're crazy, why are you doing this decision? Well, our business is carrying $2.5–3 billion in our value now, and we paid $8.7 million originally for the original business. So it's a very big difference. But I can tell you those first few months, and even today, when parts of our business aren't working and we're talking to a shareholder and they're saying, don't you regret buying Japan? When we bought Japan, we had a little flat period. And I said, no, this is going to be a big business. I can't promise you the results for next year right now, because I can't.
But you're thinking long term.
and we're working on these things. And you know, those conversations now, Japan, you know, we're supposed to be one day maybe 550 stores. Well, we're already at 940. It's going to be a 2,000 store business. You know, do I regret buying Japan? Not at all. Has it been hard? Has there been moments when you do second guess yourself? Like, is it possible? Is the Japanese consumer different? They maybe won't eat enough pizza. Yes, you go through that emotional roller coaster.
By the sounds of it, you always look for solutions more than what problems am I facing, what solutions can I
Excuses. I always say we want a Viking mentality, not a farmer mentality. And that's nothing against farmers. Farmers are an essential part of me. My business lives with farmers, right? But in the mindset, a farmer isn't always in control of the weather. They're not in control of the government legislation. They're not always in control of the commodity prices that are in the market right now. So they're very much subject to third-party things. And that is the life of a farmer, right? A Viking takes what they need to take. They need the next hill, they take the next hill. They change the world around them to make success. And that's the culture we want, right? We want to be able to enter a business or face a problem with that sort of Viking mentality that we're going to take that hill. What do we got to do? You know, we've never done this before, but we've got a lot of smart people in the room. We've got a lot of good ways that we love to face problems together. And we're really good at making lots of decisions quickly. And if you make 2 decisions and they're both wrong, well, you fail, right? But if you make 100 decisions and 25 of them were successful, and you learnt really quickly from the first 75,
going forward.
You got 25 wins.
Correct.
You're constantly going forward.
There's 2 things that are really very clear here. Your energy is contagious. I feel like running back to my work after this meeting, and I drove. And how important is energy for any leader that is leading business, team of people?
Even if it's not every great leader has to be physically energetic, but the expectation should be still energetic. There should be a high pace of movement in the way that you embrace things, right? So we employ nearly 100,000 people as a group.
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people. And you know, if we continue on our path, we'll be 200,000-300,000 people in the next 10 years. If you're going to represent and you're trying to be the wolf at the front of the pack, setting the pack, energy is a very contagious, very inspiring element. But it doesn't always have to be a rah-rah. Like, I've got some really impressive CEOs, and when you meet with them, they're a lot more calm and so on. But do not underestimate their expectations.
And their strength.
And their strength, and their commitment, and their drive. And so, of course, it's my own style as well. I get attracted to very energetic people. I get inspired by energetic people. The downside of my personality can be that people think that I talk with conviction so much that I'm not prepared to take their opinion.
Yes.
So if I enter a room with my team, I need to have strong people around me. Correct. Who say, Don, I just heard what you said, but I completely disagree, and now here's why. Because I'm going to listen to that. But if I'm in a room with sheep, they're just going, well, I disagree with Don, but I'm not going to tell him because he's just going to shoot me down real quick because he's so much energy. So you'll see that most of my leaders that are around and senior team members, in fact, we were in this room just on Monday, and you do the 4 personality quadrants, and we were very, very heavily weighted to strong, driven, because,
And it's good to be challenged.
100%.
Because we are not always right as individuals.
Very often wrong. Make a lot of mistakes constantly. And yeah, so this can be a very good way to drive a company and get people inspired, especially when you do have a strategy and you're going after it very focused. The downside is you've got to make sure you have really strong people around you too, otherwise it can be misconceived. Because otherwise you start taking people off the cliff. You're a bunch of lemmings just going over the cliff, right? And that's dangerous.
What makes a good leader?
Someone who takes responsibility for their actions and decisions. A good leader surrounds themselves with great people. That they also set the pace of work ethics in the business. You know, you don't have to work 7 days a week, but when you're on, you're committed. So if you work 4 days, if you work 3.5 days, 5 days,
so you have to be committed.
When you're there, you're fully on it, and that you are focused. You're not jumping all over the place. You know, you get to a point, and then you drive at that, and you're very consistent. When I've watched the great leaders that I've been inspired by, you can keep coming back to them and they say the same thing because they're very consistent. And, you know, everyone's looking for a silver bullet. And they're really successful and they keep telling you the same silver bullet. And you're looking for all this other stuff and they're going, no, here's the silver bullet. I don't think you've been focused enough on the silver bullet. But this is the silver bullet, right? Yeah. And you do it for a few months and then you come back and go, but what else? And they go, no, the silver bullet.
But people don't obviously execute and follow.
Correct.
Do that as well. What is next for you as a human individual? Because you have been challenged all your life to keep growing. And we always do. And I think the second we stop growing as an individual, I think it's end of us. But what is next when it comes to yourself growing?
Yeah, so, you know, we still want to be a significantly bigger business, and that will come with new challenges as well to the scale and size. And so what I've really enjoyed is that at DPE, Domino's Pizza Enterprises, we've actually been a global fast food leader in many different things that exist today that were invented by our business. And it's such a dynamic period in history right now, where we're in an opportunity to keep reinventing the future, and I love that.
And times are moving so fast.
So fast.
At the moment.
So
especially with technology.
With technology, you know, with tastes of food and expectations of environment and so on. So as long as I feel, for me, as long as I feel that I can be part of the team that reinvents that future, I'm excited to be here because it feels like you're creating a life's work. You know, like I've done 35 years. If I can do at least another 15, it'd be fantastic, right? I don't fear if at the end of the day, I start realizing I'm the square peg in a round hole here, that the business is changing and I'm the one holding it back. I have in the back of my mind, I'm often always thinking, oh, wow, what would it be like to create that business? Or if I went and bought that business and changed it, you know, like I might be shopping somewhere in a country and I go, oh,
so your mind is always...
Yeah. And so I don't fear if my time ever expires. I don't want that to happen, but if it does, I'm pretty, in the back of my head, I've got another 2 or 3 ideas I'll jump on within a short period of time.
If you were starting business again with knowledge you have today, what different things would you do?
Yeah, once again, even more...
35 years of knowledge in your head, these books should be yours.
Some of it's discipline. You know, I think that when you there's been moments in our history where just because we could, we did, but it didn't mean we should. So we went into cloud kitchens before cloud kitchens was an idea, where we thought, well, we've got all these Domino stores, we have all this technology, why don't we start serving a new brand called Sweet Treats? Yes. And the Domino stores are selling a different brand where we're selling desserts. And then we were doing some sort of chicken brand, Atomic Chicken, or buffalo wings in different sauces and stuff. And we use a similar equipment, right? What it did is it took the team distraction and it complicated our business, and our performance underperformed, and we're putting so much energy into those things, and our performance went down during those periods. You know, or another one is that, you know, there was a time when we thought, well, we shouldn't just stay in Domino's, let's do coffee or let's do sandwiches and in other brands. Go and buy a US brand, take it global, whatever. Once again, in those moments, we spent so much time and energy, we were distracted. And when I've been able to rally with the team back to, okay, what are we? And for our BHAG for 2030 right now is to be the dominant, sustainable delivery QSR in every one of our markets. That means bigger than anybody else to deliver it, right? And in there, I get very inspired by that. There's 3 really, really big words. Number 1, it says dominant. We got to be number 1, right? And in some places, we're not number 1 we may be biggest in pizza, but we may not be the biggest delivery company. Sustainable means all of, you know, from the profitability to the environment to being a good reason to exist, right? Better farming practices and so on. And then delivery. It's very focused. Everything we dream at Domino's is to be delivered. Whether you're the customer picking it up and you're taking it home, so you're now the driver, or we're driving it to you, it's always delivered into your office or your home. It's not sitting in a restaurant around plates with knives and forks and dishwashers and, you know, restaurants, right? We have a couple of tables and chairs, but 95% of our business is delivered. So when I look at what really gets me out of bed in the morning is the only thing we don't design is Coke or Pepsi that we may sell. Everything else is our product. And when we're dreaming it from the future of packaging to the future of the vehicles that are delivering, and we've got projects from, I'm sure receptions, from robots to other cool...
We were impressed with the technology even when we were signing in your office. I was like, okay.
Yeah, making a statement very clear. But when we want to be the company that everybody looks at and goes, now that's how you deliver. That's how you deliver food. And there's things that are even on other business menus right now that were not designed to be delivered. And we've got projects to turn them into the world's first version of that's delivered, that performs really well. And it marries into our whole, who we are with pizza and so on. But that's exciting, right? Like that's to be able to be that focused, that blind. It's not like we're saying
more than anything.
Yeah, we're not trying to be the what would be an example? The biggest QSR only, which quick service restaurant, right? No, we want to be the number one delivery. Because we also believe that's the booming industry for the next 10 years. This is 50% of all retail be delivered. So actually by default, we may end up being the biggest fast food company by doing that. But it doesn't say that because that's a secondary benefit, not the primary benefit. The primary benefit is just everybody in this business to know, what does it look like when you deliver in under 10 minutes? How do you design food that customers can build a billion variations with? So it's very customizable, but at the same time, it performs when it arrives. It's like, wow, that's like still eating it in the restaurant and yet it got delivered.
Don, I think it's very clear from anybody that will be watching this. You're so passionate. I feel like you probably think you're going to live another 6,000 years and you're going to work for another 5,000 because you're so passionate about things you have been doing and things you're going to do. And you've been in the business for a long time now.
Yep.
Clearly, passion is one of the biggest things for
Yep.
any individual to have. And I think when people say you got to do what you love doing, by talking to you, evidence is there.
Yeah, you don't have conviction if you don't love it. The difference between doing a job because it's what you were trained to do in life and you did a degree and it's sort of something that it's what you do now. A lot of people do it's like when I said earlier, you're in the business of running business. You're in the business of being an engineer. Congratulations. But what happens if you're one with conviction? What if you're one that wants to change the world in whatever the way that is? What if you wanted to be one of the best? What if your life will be so much better because you'll be on a journey that's so much more enjoyable. It comes with pain too. Life has the biggest positives. The counter side of that will also have some of the biggest pain moments too. It comes together. Life's just not going to be a bed of roses the whole time because you're passionate. And
you're just going to have to keep moving forward.
Exactly, and learn from those experiences. Why did we end up here? What mistakes did we make? Or what did the environment change that we didn't respond to? Or was it, you weren't giving enough attention to? Because it's not just your business, right? Your family, your health. Like I talk about, to be a successful entrepreneur, always start with you. If you're not healthy, how can you possibly be good to your family? How can you possibly be good? You can't be your best self for your company. People's like, I eat a lot of pizza, and they say, you're lying, look at you. So
what's your favorite pizza?
Pepperoni.
It's my favorite too. Everybody in the office always, if you order 15 pizzas, it's 8 pepperoni pizzas.
Yeah, buy the loaded pepperoni. Do you buy the loaded pepperoni?
Yes, I do actually.
Yeah, the loaded pepperoni is
and
my favorite.
And cheese, and I get everything.
Yeah. I had a cheesy crust. We had a banker in here today, and we had cheesy pepperoni. And then I just did product development on another product.
So more pizza.
More pizza, yeah. But now think about that. If you're eating a lot of pizza, how do you have balance to that? So when I'm not eating pizza, I'm eating a salad, a piece of fish. I'm working out in the mornings or sometimes even at night.
How important is to work out?
Very important. It's part of giving into the body of energy. Imagine if I was 25, 30 kilos heavier and I'm sitting back here and much more like this, and I'm tired today because it's been a long day already and my body's been carrying a lot of...
And you're talking like an athlete, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So, if you have that energy that, my alarm clock, I sleep very well. So I put my head on the pillow and I fall asleep and then I wake up when my alarm goes off, right? And that could be 6 hours or it could be 9 hours. In fact, if it's been a really busy trip, it can even be 15 hours. Like it can just be like that, right? I'll sleep. Hit the road, get activity going, get the body moving, for me, I love coffee, so I'm going to have a lot of black coffee in the morning for a number of hours. And so I always think my version of balance is first responsibility is to be the best you can be mentally, physically. Are you reading a lot? Are you studying a lot? Are you listening to people that have talent? You're also not going to be happy if you don't got a happy family. Whether you're married or not, there's people in your life that will be considered your family, right?
Correct.
And how much time are you giving back into the family? And time isn't just only the number of hours, it's presence. Like I have a lot of friends who don't travel like me, but when I'm with them and their kids, they don't give them any time. If you're in presence with my kids, they're going to be big focus of mine right now, because I'm here and it's present.
Which is important to be present in the moments.
Very, very important. And then, of course, your business and your last ones are your hobbies and passions outside of work. But that's my order: health, family, business, your hobbies. When you do all of that together, some people have faith too, right? I don't. For me, that's not one of my priorities in my life, but because I'm an existentialist, it's a bit different, right? I'm wired differently.
But whatever makes people happy, clearly.
Yeah, but all of those, it's that quality. A lot of people do quantity of enjoying their life, and then they get sick.
Quality.
Yeah.
One thing I will say that thank you for sharing your knowledge. You didn't even have to say yes to this interview, and clearly you got a lot to offer, and we have all learned a lot from this. So I want to say thank you. This has been absolutely pleasure.
My pleasure, and thank you for doing this as well. It seems like a very good, positive, encouraging. It's good that, as you said, you're going to inspire a lot of people on the journey you've taken, and the fact that you're doing it is you're meeting other people and adding to that story. So,
thank you.
Well done to you,
and
congratulations on your success.
Thank you very much.